For the second assignment, we're just going to build off of what you already built for your first assignment. Now, I built my basic HTML page here, and I'm not including any of the things necessarily, well, some of the things I'm using, like the basic HTML structure, the head and the body, but I'm not including your images and other tags that we asked for in the first assignment necessarily. If you want to, you can take your first assignment and build directly off of that, or you can build a completely new page. But I am asking in this assignment that you work it and follow the same guidelines that you learned in the first project regarding file structure and using your folders properly and things like that. Also, I want you to note here, I'm kind of breaking this down. I typed it up in advance because if I try to type it live on the fly, I will probably make mistakes and slow everything down. So for expediency, just so that we get through this a little bit more quickly, I went ahead and typed everything out, and then I'm commenting out structures here. So I'm starting my comment tag right here, and I'm finishing my comment tag down here. So you'll notice that I have my table and forms and things, and we're going to talk about everything individually. But if we take a look at my page, they're not showing up there. So I am using Text Wrangler, and let's take a look at this step by step. So one of the first things that I ask you to do in this particular rubric, and obviously we're going to be doing this inside of the body tag. Everything we do today is going to be inside the body tag. I don't have anything inside my head tag. In here you might have your meta tags, you might have your title, but we're working only in the body, and the first thing that I asked you to do is to make an unordered or ordered list. You can choose either. Lists are very simple. You can see here I have UL is my open tag, then I close my UL, and what do you think UL stands for? It stands for unordered list. So then each list item that I have is LI, which means list item. So I open my list item, I put Susan, which is obviously me, and I am sitting here typing next to my dog Max. So I have us both here in a list. And then I close my list. Simple as that. So we take a look at this again, and here I am, Susan and Max. And since it's an unordered list, I have dots. Let's go back to Text Wrangler and see what happens if we make it an ordered list, which is an OL. We go ahead and save this. Over here, refresh. And now it's an ordered list. Simple as that. Okay, another thing I'm asking for on this particular project is a table. And tables are a little bit more complicated, but really not a whole heck of a lot more. I'm going to cut these out. I'm going to put them down here after my table. A table is a way to display data, information. Back in the day, if any of you have done web pages like 5 or more years ago maybe, pages were laid out using tables, columns, and rows, but not anymore. That's very old school. We don't do that. But we still use tables to display data. For instance, if I wanted to show addresses, phone numbers, things like that, I could do that. So the first thing you have to do is declare your table. So I have my table open tag here, and down here at the bottom of everything I have my table close tag. So I would type probably my open tag, type my close tag, and then put my cursor in the middle. Now my top row, I have my headers, first name, last name. So TR is table row, and TH, table header. That's my first cell, and this is my second cell. Then I have another row where I have my name, first name, last name. And the next row, I have my dog's name, first name, last name. So you can see that this is a table. It has 1, 2, 3 rows, and each row has 1, 2 columns, right? So let's take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and save again. Take a look at my page. I have to refresh, and there it is. You see I have my 1, 2, 3 rows. These things, notice how they're bold. That's because they're the table headers. And table headers are nice not only for the fact that you get that word that shows up in bold like that, but also for screen readers. It lets them know which header we're looking at, what the name of that column is. The other thing you'll notice is I have a border here. I can actually get rid of that border if I don't want it there. And that's a table attribute. So I can say border or 0, or I can take that border away. Refresh. And there we go. There is no border on there anymore. And that's all there is to tables. Down here you'll notice that I started integrating a little bit of HTML. Move my commentary down here. Okay, I put in a break and a horizontal rule and a break. So I'm integrating some HTML, well, this is all HTML, but some of the earlier tags that you may have learned, that you have hopefully learned, I'm just kind of building them in here. Now the next thing I'm doing is a form. And forms are obviously ways to get information from your user. And the one thing you're going to see is this action. Right now I'm leaving that blank. As you get into more advanced web classes, you may go into something just like submit name.php. And what that would be is a separate PHP file, which is a scripting file that is going to actually take this data and put it in your database or whatever it is. Or sometimes you'll see mail to : and a name or something in there, which is really bad practice. But for right now, we're just going to leave this action blank. Nothing is going to happen with this form. But I combined everything here, and in the W3 schools they kind of break it up into individual chunks, but typically you're going to have a form. So I have my form opening and closing, and you're going to have several types of input inside of one form, which is the way I did it here. So I have here a text box with my first name and last name text box. And you'll see I'm breaking this up with a break. I have just regular text in here, so it will just type. And then I have check boxes. Actually, this should be a radio box, probably. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Take a look at this here, refresh. And here's my form, so I can go ahead and type this stuff. Radio buttons, I can turn one on or the other. And then I would hit the submit button. When I hit the submit button, whatever it is, whatever it is that is in the action, that's what's going to happen. So if I did have all this information going to a separate PHP or some kind of script page, all of this information would be sent to that page when I hit the submit button. So whatever you tell this form to do in this action is going to happen when the submit button occurs, which is why forms are typically all together. Now, important things to know, for instance, when you're using radio buttons, the name has to be the same, otherwise the radio buttons aren't going to work together. Really, that's the only trick here. Could change this to checkbox. I don't want capitals. And I'm going to change from radio buttons into checkbox. So now with the checkbox I can submit both dog and cat. And that is basically the whole assignment. Oh, one more thing. That's not the whole assignment. I have one more section. I'm putting in here an iframe, and I'm combining two things. I'll take out my commentary here. The first thing I'm using is a div and a float right. So I have my div opened and I have my div closed, and then I'm putting my iframe in the middle. And you don't necessarily, you can put anything inside of a div tag that you want. And divs are used to place things and move things around the page. Now when we get into our next assignment with the cascading style sheets, we're going to get a lot more flexibility and ability with this. You'll notice here that it says style float right, and that when you did the W3 schools assignment, there was a lot more that was in the style. So there is a lot that you can do with that. Right now the only style I'm using is float right because I don't want to get you into using a whole heck of a lot of inline style, which is what this is called here. But I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to have to move this over because I'm floating here, floating to the right. You can see here that I'm floating to the right. So it's over on the right side of the page. So you can watch what happens if I say float left. Refresh. And now it's over there on the left side of the page. And that's the floating is how we do a lot of placement things. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is a little bit, yeah, that's all right. We'll just leave it like that. So that is everything that we have on this particular assignment. So you can see how this will start making your pages a lot more interesting. Have fun with it.